I admit I'm a little bit confused as to what part of Pierre Poilievre's talking points you disagree with so vehemently that you would rather vote for the same party, the same cabinet that's been in charge for the last 10 years. Do you disagree with his assessment of rates of crime, of inflation, of affordability of housing? Like, does he have those things wrong? I filmed a couple of videos, but I watched them back and they're just too angry. But I'm out here watching the seasons, trying to cultivate gratitude, thinking, how bad is it, as I'm thinking about clients and thinking about the way to allocate time, all that stuff that people talk about. They talk about self-care and, oh my gosh, bills have got to get paid, and that's the bottom line. And mortgages, you're trying to run vehicles, you're like one insurance claim away from disaster, or if you've got illness. Anyways, I'm saying all I think about is money. And then I look at those election results and I think, I don't understand what other people are thinking about. Like, I care about the environment. I'm not saying I want a polluted world, but I just don't understand the reasoning behind carbon taxing and destroying one's own economy when Canada has a role to play in the global community in assisting to provide ethical avenues of transition and development of energy sources for the developing world. By cutting ourselves off at the knees and saying to Germany, no, we can't help you. You're on your own with Putin energy, and not having to burn their furniture because they've taken apart their carbon-based grid generation. The experiment's been done before. So it feels to me like the fear of Donald Trump. I feel like Pierre Poilievre actually speaks a language that Donald Trump understands. You think Donald Trump is going to see eye to eye with a globalist, ESG, WEF, DEI? My parents used to talk about Eastern Canada and talk about how the election is over before the West has even done voting. So it's a long-standing issue, this dysfunctional family of Upper Canada and Lower Canada viewing themselves as Canada and everybody else just being a means to maintain their lifestyle in the capital. Out here in the districts, you just can't seem to catch a break. And at the same time, so your attempts to demonize Danielle Smith as anger farming, I'm like, no, that's missing the point. This is an issue that's 50 years old, more than that, about a lack of adequate representation for where the GDP per capita comes from. The difference between Saskatchewan and Alberta is energy. It's the height of madness to have Quebec think that they somehow subsidize Alberta oil. I don't understand that. That's gaslighting. That's a complete opposite. $40 billion a year in equalization, and Quebec is doing Albertan families a favor? By what? By preventing us from being able to do the work that we need to do in order to pay you equalization, in order for us to be competitive within global markets. Like, you would have thought Lac Magentique would have been some kind of eye-opener about the fact that there's efficient ways to move energy around, or ethical ways. You fill the St. Lawrence up with your sewage and you float Saudi oil up and down that thing, and at the very same time you prevent us from the development of resources, accessing tidewater, being able to help the world have relatively clean LNG. You just, it's total abuse for generations, and then everybody who's trying to score political points wants to hang it around the neck of Danielle Smith. No. Alberta doesn't need you. And you think that you don't need Alberta's contributions to per capita GDP. Well, the numbers don't support those ideas. You've received real money. I'm not talking about the money that the federal government, just the Bank of Canada, conjures up out of thin air. I'm talking about royalties and taxes come from people getting out of bed, managing risk, and trying to create profitability by engaging with the market in a real way. That's the money that actually is worthy of not only self-respect, but respect. And you don't respect it. You never have. So to act surprised that Alberta is being compelled to take action, to protect itself from a bully, from an abuser. You're the abuser. And now you're gaslighting the victim by saying that it's the victim's fault, that for generations, Ontario and Quebec has beating the crap out of Alberta with a pipe wrench, and at the very same time accusing us of a lack of patriotism. It's just not a club that we feel compelled to belong to. In other words, we have different definitions of what it means to be Canadian. And if this Mark Carney globalist, Bill C-69, gun control, an indefinite and infinite supply of propaganda from the CBC, if this is Canada, then no, we're out. Canada used to mean, we are honest, hardworking, loyal. No, being Canadian feels like a liability with you guys running the show, because it's just comedy. I cannot believe that you have such a problem with Pierre Poilievre's platform. Like, have you listened to the points that he's talking about? Housing, immigration, inflation, crime, to say nothing of building and engaging with the markets in a real way. I don't understand. But we are not going to be abused and gaslit anymore. We're done. And the referendum already took place. You just didn't know it. The referendum was the election. So, you've made your choice. Your choice is to continue thinking that you can glut the West in perpetuity. You cannot, and you will not. So, and it's not Danielle Smith's fault.